Michael, welcome onto the show. You have had five exits. You have invested and advised a lot of companies. What do you look for when you are in the process of trying a company that you want to help advise?
Well, first of all, thank you for speaking with me. And what a great question. Um, because of my story, and how I grew up and what I've done in business, your question is very important to me. And there's an old saying in investing that you always bet on the jockey, not the horse. And so for me, the story is critically important. Obviously, the idea has to be, somewhat good. Uh, um, but to me, the most important thing are the people involved and why they're doing it. And one of the things that I really like is working with first-time entrepreneurs and being able to really help them through the journey, because in this world, whether it's business or other things, it's all about the journey. Everybody rushes to get to the end, right? I'm 46, I'm retired. Let me tell you something. When I envisioned it and all of my friends were playing golf with me in Miami Beach, I forgot that they weren't all retired at 46. And so um, it's not about rushing, it's about the journey. And so finding and understanding why people are doing it, um, and really what the driving force behind that is what makes me invest either writing a check or significantly more valuable my time. But it is all about why they're doing it, and the story behind that. And that is the sniff test that gets me to move along to the diligence in every piece of it. That is the first and most important thing to me is who are these folks and why are they doing it?
So you think that for you, your process is more about the virtues of the person, the founder, as opposed to the idea of it?
It's both. The idea to me is that my most valuable thing I have in this world is my time. I don't know how much of it I have, and when I spend it, it's gone. And so for me, it's all been about leaving a legacy for the generations to come and for my children. And so because of that, no one's going to, how real can I be on this? Can I use
Uh,
real words?
you can say whatever you want, Michael.
No
Floor's all
one's
yours.
going to count, no one's going to count my shit when I'm dead. It's meaningless. The only thing that I leave behind is what people say about me to my children. And so for me, it's not always about the money. Very rarely is it about the money, unless I can take that money and do something really good and help people with it. It's all about the people in their journey and the time that they spend. And getting a return on that. And the most valuable returns in this world are not financial ones.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think that's a topic. I was listening to a podcast and the idea of un unteachable lessons came up. And that was one of those things where people say, like, okay, money won't make you happy. And then other people would be like, yeah, but money will solve all your problems and it'll do XYZ. But it's interesting because the more people I talk to, the more people that bring it up, I kind of have the same notion where I'm like, you know what? Maybe it is about the journey. Maybe the fact that, I've been doing this podcast since I was 18. I started in my dorm room and it was cool to be like the underdog talking to all these cool people. Maybe that's the fun part of it. And then the result that I get at the end, whether it's monetary, maybe having cool people on the show like you, it's it's just part of the process, if you will. So you talked a little bit about what you look for from the actual company, right? You look for the person, the mission that they have. But when it comes to the person, what are some things that you're watching out for? You called it the sniff test. What do you mean by that?
Um, a lot of times it is how they grew up or where they came from that allows me to better understand where the areas of support are that they are going to need. And I'll tell you that when I invest, it's oftentimes early stage. And so this advice is not for the Amazons of the world, but for young organizations that are going to need capital, but they're going to need a lot of other things. And one of the things that I learned in life is that one of the most important deals I've ever done in my life are the ones I've said no to.
Yeah.
And so for any of these folks starting a new business, whether it's for profit, it's a non for profit, you have to surround yourself by advisory boards and boards of directors that can help you and give you a higher percentage chance, not only of winning, but enjoying your experience. And so when I say it comes down to the person, I want to know what's their driving force, right? You just said money can't buy happiness. Well, guess what? Rich or poor, it's nice to have money. I'm not going to lie to you. That's the God's honest truth. Meanwhile, the most important problems in the world can't be solved with money. After the fun of running around buying the exotic cars and homes and jewelry and airplanes and travel, that gets boring. And the endorphins that it releases from buying a $400,000 sports car that can go from 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds, it wears off over time. And then you figure out the pleasure comes from helping people. If you want to be truly happy and you want to spend the best money you've ever spent, take the money and make it holy. Go feed a starving person, because you can have all of the money in the world. If your child is sick, that money is not going to help you save that child necessarily. And so to me, money has very limited value. And I'm looking for people that, A, are doing it for the right reasons, right? Because if you're focused on financial success and all these different pieces of it, it's going to make it very complicated. For me, if somebody is doing it for the right reason and also they're willing to listen, some people I meet, they want me to write a check, but as soon as I open my mouth and ask a question or say something, they don't want to hear it because they're the smartest one in the room. I'm very proud to say that in all of my companies, I really tried to make it so that I was the dumbest one in the room. Luckily for me, that's not so hard to do. But if somebody is so smart that they're not going to listen to all of my mistakes, and they're not going to learn from the lessons that I have to teach, what's the value that I bring? You can go get a check from a lot of people, but those aren't the checks that come from me, because the checks that come from me, it has to be tied to helping people, helping families have an opportunity to make a better life for themselves, or making the world better. And I'm not saying that it has to be tied to recyclable materials or this and that and the other, but making people's lives better can come through driving stock. It can come through the culture of your organization and what you believe and the environment you allow for people to be in. And are they going to be able to thrive and feel valued? Or are they going to get the shit kicked out of them so they go home every day and want to beat the dog? Like, at the end of the day, these are the things that we do, and how we impact people are how we're remembered. And so whether it's writing a check or putting in my time and doing the work, I want to make sure that I'm investing in people that are deserving of it. And the P&L and the balance sheet for me, it doesn't dictate whether somebody is deserving of it or not.
Wow. That is powerful. That's amazing. I loved
Little disclaimer, I don't want to kill money. I don't want to throw good money at bad. But there's a lot more to it than needing a financial return on the investment. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that could have been helpful to me that I never had a lot of times in learning on my own. And had somebody like me been there, it truly would have been a blessing. Because I'll tell you that starting a company, being an entrepreneur, it's lonely at the top. And being an entrepreneur, you got to be at least as crazy as me. I mean, like, being an entrepreneur, here's how your day starts. You go from like feeling like you won the lotto to wanting to jump off the roof to winning the lotto again. And that's the first 3.5 minutes of your day. It's just not, it is not for everybody. And so a lot of times I'm talking people out of it and saying, why the hell are you doing this? When I hear even when I hear the good answers or the bad answers, or they're doing it for the right reason or the wrong reason, a lot of times I'm trying to talk people out of it because I know what that road looks like, and it's just not for everybody.
Mm. That really resonates with me because entrepreneurship is something I'm very passionate about. I can see myself having a business in the future. So it's interesting that you talk about this because even so recently I just finished writing a book. It's kind of small, like 80-page book, but I mean, I know this isn't an I mean, in a way, it could be an entrepreneurial pursuit, but I totally understand what you're saying about like having from highs to lows because today in the morning I was, working on something and everything seemed like it was going right. And then a couple hours ago, things are just going down again. So it's always just this like the ebbs and flows, I guess, if you will. You talked a little bit earlier about how you look for the environment that the entrepreneur or the founder came from. An interesting topic that made me think of is, do you think that people well, actually, first, before I say that, do you look for people that are in maybe, like, came from a bad background as far as, like, financial or people that came from a good background financial?
Um, you can't judge people by the backgrounds that they didn't have a choice. So I'll answer your question with a couple stories, I guess. Um, One of the investors in a couple of my businesses is a very well known, very, very wealthy family. And one of the things that I learned from some members in that family um, is that the grandparents, sometimes the parents, but really the grandparents who were really monumental in creating this insane company and crazy generational wealth, taught the younger family members to be investing in the builders of the world, the builders, people who create things. And oftentimes the investors uh, uh, are not builders. And so you got to be really careful that, the background is aligned because it's very difficult to, um, it's difficult for individuals to understand in young businesses that there's times where you can be at 30,000 feet, and then there's times where you're in the trenches, and you have to be, and you have to wear multiple hats. But you will cause yourself to stroke out if you're at 30,000 feet and in the trenches at the same time. And so it is critically important to find people who are resilient and want to and understand what it is like to work hard. Um, and so, listen, my background is different than other people's background. I'm not looking for a specific background, but it definitely gives some perspective, potentially, and certainly you have to verify that, on understanding the type of grit and determination someone may have. And so, if the track record is not me, someone's talking to me and they grew up and their father was an entrepreneur, their grandfather was an entrepreneur, and there's a family net worth of like $700 million, and you haven't, worked 100 hours a week because, if you didn't, your family wasn't eating and you were going to be homeless. That's very, very different than the other end of the spectrum. And I'm not saying one is good and one is bad when I'm looking at and assessing the jockeys, if you will. But and certainly there are many examples of people being able to have success from either the former or the latter. Like, but for me, that grit and determination that comes from making it on your own, growing up, when I was growing up, we didn't have wealth, but my parents taught me the most valuable things in the world. They taught me how to work hard. They taught me what was important. Money wasn't a part of that. And they also taught me that you're not entitled to shit and that whatever you want, you have to work for it. And so, even as an individual who at 12 years old started working and washing dishes to help contribute to my family, and I would work all night and I'd work all day before school and after school, and then went on to work 80 to 100 hours a week, like, you have to have that grit and determination. And the grit and determination, the next step is, why are you doing this? Well, I'm doing this because when I'm gone, I want people to come and tell stories, to my children of the impact that I had on the community that I made better by being part of it, in the families of the people who worked for me, is very, very different than your dad was awesome. He got the stock from $3 to $28. And so it is a process in which it really starts with, does this person have what it takes, and are they willing to actually put in the work? And so for me, I'm if I am dealing with a person that is open to counsel and open to having people around them as advisors, I'm more prone to invest my time or my money in someone like that with a type of background where they'd have had to overcome, versus other individuals who are doing it because, they want to buy the airplane. And, they haven't really had challenges in life where it took everything in them to get up and and do it every day. And so for me, that's just part of my analysis. It's not right, it's not wrong. But at the end of the day, I also have to spend time with these founders, because in my investments, I am an active participant. Not saying that I have to have control, but I'm an active participant, and I need to have to want to and enjoy spending my time with these folks as well. And so, because of that, it's a crucial first step for me and for the person looking for the investment to make sure there's alignment. Because just because somebody doesn't believe in me or have the background, it doesn't mean they're wrong or I'm better or they're better. It just means that we're different. And so I'm looking for people who are similar, in as far as philosophical beliefs and everything else, but where we're different, and the differences and the things that I'm great at brings value to that partnership, that ownership group, whatever the case may be. So I really have to pass the sniff test, not only to minimize the liability and the risk for me investing my check, or 1,000 times more important than my check is my time, my most valuable resource. Like, I want to make sure that I'm investing that in somebody that is deserving of it. Because at the end of the day, those human beings are not going to be judged by me by the success or failure of that business. And so if they're a great human being and they did everything right, but it just didn't work out, I'm okay with that as well. What I'm not okay with is uh, um, stories about me when I'm gone being about financial success, because that's not at all what I'm about. And those are not the stories that I want shared with my children when I'm gone.
Sure, that is such a good answer, and I love how that's something you prioritize as well, because it's one thing to say it, just be like, "Yeah, I wanna have, I guess, live a legacy where it's not about my money for the kids," but it seems like you're actually doing this in all pursuits of your life, the business that you invest in, the people that you surround yourself with, so I really admire that, Michael, that's absolutely awesome. I asked that question about the financial background just because as somebody who grew up, I saw my mom have a lot of financial struggles, and I feel like the pressure I always wanted to be the person that could help her, and the pressure to be this person, I feel like in a way has gotten me better results, if you will. It's made me work a lot harder. So the reason that I asked that question was it's interesting for me to hear your perspective with people that you work with, founders that are trying to start their businesses, of whether or not their financial background has played a part into their drive, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you this, wearing my daddy hat, not wearing my investor or entrepreneur hat. And I don't know your mom, I won't speak for her, but I will speak as a parent. For me, the financial success or non-financial success of my children is inconsequential. Yes, I don't want them to struggle or work as hard as I had to. I also don't want them to have it so easy where they don't learn those
Interesting.
lessons. I want my children to be kind. I want my children to be good human beings. And so I'll tell you this, in the short time that I've known you, I think you win because your mom did all of that. And look at you. You're in college. You're educating yourself. You're kind. You're going to be successful because you have the drive. But that financial freedom is not what we're looking for as parents. My
Mm,
dad passed away a couple of years ago. My dad was a great and holy man and leader in our community. My dad didn't get to see necessarily the end result of my financial success, but he got to see the other parts of the journey. And it's awesome. I get to spoil the shit out of my mom. It's a beautiful thing, whether it's buying a car or my mom came with my family and I, and we were in Hawaii for June, or, our trips to Mexico every year. Like, these were not things that we can afford as a child. That for me, and I think my mom likes it too, like, I take insane pleasure from that. I'm a member of a country club not too far from where you grew up that I wouldn't have even dared to drive past the gates into the parking lot because I didn't belong. And now my mom goes swimming and eats there and has a great time. I'm sure that my mom takes pleasure from that. However, the pleasure that she gets from seeing me as a kind person, as a person who gives to charity, as a person who cares about the children of the world, the things that bring my mom the most pleasure is that the values that were so important to her and my father, while it was could have gone either way when I was in high school, like any other kid getting into trouble, right? And living and experiencing. In the end, she created somebody that's kind, that's going to pass those similar values on to my children and her grandchildren. And she sees somebody that looks at the children of our community like they're all of our children and who wants to make the world better. Do I do things that are bad? Sure. Do I make bad decisions? Yes. But more important than the trips or the cars or the stuff is a parent seeing that their child, A, can be a good human being, B, can take care of themselves without me, meaning that one day I can transition on to the next journey uh, in a peaceful manner without fear of my children being able to make good decisions for themselves or to be kind or to care for themselves. And so I'll tell you that you don't have to be an entrepreneur or start a business or to shower your mom in money. It's in how you behave and how you treat people and how you live every single day that is the greatest testament to the investment that your mom made and the sacrifices that your mom made, that we all do that are parents, that are grandparents, that are great grandparents who survived the unthinkable, who left sometimes their entire family at a young age with a couple pennies to come to this new world, all for the dream of being able to educate their children and give them an opportunity for a better tomorrow. That's what we look for as parents. That's what our people do. And not to speak for your mom, but I think that you're bringing a lot of pleasure to your mom in the kind of human being that you are. And money can never, ever be more meaningful or more important than something like that.
Mm. Phew, what an answer. What an answer. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I think that is I had another guest on my podcast who said something kind of similar to what you were saying, but this whole idea of, the fact that also these people that you might be doing it for want you to live your own life as well. So it's kind of it's interesting. It's kind of a full circle moment for me. I love the answer. Michael, I can talk forever to you. This is an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you giving me the time. Where can people find you at if you want to shout out any links, website, anything?
I think the best place is LinkedIn. I think young people should focus more on LinkedIn and building those relationships, while they're in school. So connect with Michael Schultz on LinkedIn, take a look through and see what I've done in my past. Connect with me at Caffeine Doctor on Instagram, not as interesting business stuff, but also would love to connect with you another time. Let's continue this conversation and do a part two, because we can
Yeah.
really take these philosophies, um, and in our next conversation, I can give examples of these same beliefs and ideas of how they've created success, not only in my businesses, but in other people's organizations. Those same important things that you may have learned in kindergarten or that mom and dad said to you, they're true. And so would love to continue the conversation and dive more into the business side and entrepreneur side of today we talked about investing and why you would invest, but let's talk about the exciting piece, the entrepreneurial mindset, the entrepreneurial journey, and the philosophies that no matter what business you go into will help to not only keep you sane, but help your businesses and the people that you are responsible for in your organizations. It'll allow all of them to thrive.
100%. Let's do it. For all my listeners out there, get ready for part two. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Michael, thank you again. It's my listeners. I'll see you next Tuesday.